Bracey Skills Clinic's back with another video. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. We hitting y'all with it back-to-back. I'm still running these errands. Hopefully y'all checked out the last video talking about how us Spurs fans need to continue to support our team through these tough times as a Spurs fan and some of the stuff going on in the organization. But now I'm going to stick to on the court. Enough for the off the court. Let's get to on the court. And something that has really been bothering me lately, okay? Something that has really been bothering me, and it's really coming from the casual NBA fans. You know, the ones that don't pay attention to Spurs basketball and try to tell all us Spurs fans about Spurs basketball. I know you guys get the same type of energy from a lot of these casual fans, and it's very, very irritating because when we try to tell these people about Spurs basketball and about certain players when they're on the Spurs while they're coming up, like DeJounte and Kawhi when they were en route of coming up, nobody wanted to listen to how good they were. Everybody wanted to just act like nothing was going on. Then they get good, they pay a little bit of attention, and then when DeJounte leaves or Kawhi leaves, now, oh, they're doing so much better, or DeRozan leaves. Oh, they're doing so much better. Nobody cared when DeRozan had his most efficient all-around season in San Antonio to date before he went to Chicago. They only care about when he was not on the Spurs no more, okay? And that leads to Stephen Jackson's statement and many other statements out there that says things like, the Spurs holds players back. The Spurs hold players back. I've dealt with several people recently that have said these things, and almost all of them that say these things, as far as the fans go, I'm not talking stack right now, but as far as the fans go, almost all of them that say that don't watch Spurs games. Don't watch Spurs games at all. And you can't even get them to watch a Spurs game. But they'll come to you and say these types of things like the Spurs hold players back, even though they don't watch a game, which is very, very interesting to me, right? That statement not only hurts me as a fan, it hurts me more as a basketball coach, a youth basketball coach and trainer. We know this channel, if you subscribe to this channel, you know this is, I post a lot of training videos and AAU highlights and things like that because, that's the field I'm in, right? It hurts me to hear people say the Spurs holds players back because as, not even just as a fan, but as a youth coach and a youth trainer, if I'm trying to show people the right way to play the game, the Spurs way, the most fundamental way, is the right way of playing the game. And believe it or not, even your NBA champ Golden State Warriors play a very similar style and even run the same sets that the Spurs won. They don't just give Stephen Curry the ball and say dribble the ball for 20 out of the 24 seconds of the shot clock and shoot a three like most other NBA teams do with their best players. Stephen Curry is just as dangerous off the ball as he is on the ball. We're talking about on the court styles here. So the Warriors style, that's very similar to the Spurs style. And by the way, their head coach who played for Coach Popovich and learned a lot from Coach Popovich has implemented some, not all, some of the same ways the Spurs play on offense to the Warriors. The biggest difference between the Warriors and the Spurs is talent. Okay? Instead of DeJounte Murray and Lonnie Walker shooting these threes on these sets, it's Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson shooting these threes off these sets. Major difference. Instead of DeRozan or LaMarcus Aldridge trying to be the playmaker in these sets, it's Draymond Green being a playmaker off these sets. Major difference. Okay? So where I'm getting at is the Spurs style works. It's just that the Spurs just don't have an elite roster. The Spurs have not had an elite title contending roster in 5 years. I'm going to say since Zaza stuck his foot under Kawhi, the Spurs have not had a contending roster since. Even with the DeRozan, that was not a contending roster. You know what's crazy about people talking about DeRozan all of a sudden being a better player after the Spurs? When DeRozan was a Spur, nobody picked the Spurs to make the playoffs even when he was on the Spurs. When DeRozan was a Spur, they picked the Spurs to miss the playoffs while he was on the Spurs. But now all of a sudden he's on the Bulls and you guys are going to act like this dude got all of a sudden crazy better and don't want to give no credit to Coach Pop or the Spurs system because we hold players back. But when these guys are on the Spurs, y'all didn't pick the Spurs to make the playoffs. That is so frustrating to me. as not just a fan, but as a basketball coach. The Spurs is the right way to play the game. I watch these NBA teams that get their best players, their franchise players, and they let them dribble the ball for 30 times. And everybody else is standing around behind the three-point line. No movements, no off-ball screens, no cuts. They're just literally watching their best player dribble the ball for the entire shot clock. And the Spurs come in with a system where everybody touch it, everybody eats, everybody feed the open man. And we hold players back. Is it because we don't tell our best player to dribble the ball 20 out of the 24 seconds on the shot clock? Is that what you guys mean? Are we holding players back from doing that? Is that what we talking about? Because the fundamental way that the Spurs play is the correct way to play the game. Okay? That leads to winning basketball. Winning basketball. It may not be the basketball that fits your liking as the casual fan, but it's winning basketball. It's the same style that they played when Tim, Manu, and Tony was there. It's winning basketball. It got us 5 championships. And by the way, now I'm on to Steven Jackson. Steven Jackson, that same style that you say holds players back got you your only NBA championship as a starter. You started on that team, and you guys won a championship on that team, and you did not win another championship again. Okay? Also, you wasn't an all-star after the Spurs play. I'm not disrespecting Steven Jackson, bro. I know Steven Jackson is a phenomenal player. I actually was a major Steven Jackson fan as a player, even when he was not on the Spurs. I'm in the Bay Area. He was great on those We Believe teams. He was actually a very underrated player. I'm not here to downplay Steven Jackson's talent. All I'm saying is, I'm just going off his logic of saying that they hold players back. Are you talking about off the court or on the court? If you're talking about off the court, I have no right to speak because I was not in those locker rooms. If you're talking about the Spurs hold players back as far as them being themselves personality-wise, hey, man, I can't say you wrong for that, man. You know a lot of stuff that a lot of us fans don't know. But I'm trying to figure it out because when you say Spurs holds players back, the casual fan is going to start thinking that the way the Spurs play the game is incorrect. And I have a problem with that, being a youth basketball coach, by saying that the Spurs' way of playing basketball is incorrect because they move the ball and they play the game the right way. And a lot of the stuff that I run comes from the Spurs. And when I run those sets, they're pretty damn successful, even in youth basketball. Everybody touches it. Guys get open shots. So I'm just trying to figure out, when people say the Spurs hold players back, what are you guys talking about? Because the system is literally designed for everybody to touch it and one person don't dribble the shit out the basketball. I don't understand that. So we got to do some clarification. Are we talking off the court or on the court? Because I disagree wholeheartedly if it's on the court. If it's off the court, hey, you might be on to something. But all I'm going to say is, like I said, I'm going to just speak on the outside looking in. Of course, the Steven Jacksons and the DeJounte Murrays and all them, of course, they know way more than I do. They've actually played for the Spurs. I'm just a fan, okay? I'll be the first to acknowledge that. However, all I can say is, a lot of these guys that are saying these type of things, I'm not saying they're bad people. All I'm going to say is their off-the-court situations was not the best. I'm going to just leave it at that. It wasn't the best. Doesn't mean that they're bad people, but it wasn't the best, right? And are the Spurs wrong for giving these players strict guidelines that allows them to not get in trouble off the court and allow them to still be able to play and represent and maximize their potential on the court? If they let you just go wild off the court, then they're not going to get the most out of you on the court. And you won't even get the most out of yourself on the court. So I'm just trying to figure out, what do people mean? Spurs fans, please comment below. What are these people talking about when they say Spurs holds players back? I just disagree with that. Not just as a Spurs fan, but just as a fan of basketball. The Spurs play the game the right way. The Spurs play the game the right way. And like, these guys were not praised when they were here. Nobody cared when they were here. Nobody cared when DeJounte Murray was our starting point guard after Tony Parker got hurt, and DeJounte Murray, as a rookie, had to start at point guard in the Western Conference Finals with all of our best players out. Did anybody care about DeJounte Murray back then? Did anybody care about DeMar DeRozan when he averaged a career high in assists and I believe rebounds, and I want to say maybe field goal percentage? Somebody fact check that. I think it was a few categories DeRozan had career highs in other than total points per game, because when he first got to San Antonio, all he was known for was a scorer. He was not known for his playmaking ability, and that did not come until he came to San Antonio. Did anybody care then? Did anybody care about Kawhi Leonard when, newsflash, one of his best statistical seasons all around and his highest vote count as far as the MVP vote came in San Antonio? It did not come in LA. It did not come in Toronto. It came in San Antonio. So his best chance, in other words, his best chance of winning a league MVP came in San Antonio, not Toronto and not in LA. But we hold players back. Somebody please help me understand that statement, because I do not understand the statement. I disagree, not just as a Spurs fan. I disagree as a fan of basketball. They've always played the game the way the game is supposed to be played. Okay? Fundamentally sound. Tim Duncan is at the face of that, but even after Tim Duncan retired, nobody talks about this, and I'm going to say this right now. Nobody talks about this. After Tim Duncan retired, yes, we have not won a championship since Tim Duncan retired. Of course, it's not easy winning a championship, by the way. Newsflash, it's not easy winning a championship, even if you got a great player, by the way. But do you guys realize the Spurs made the playoffs 3 straight years after Tim Duncan retired? Do you guys know the year after Kawhi Leonard was traded, the Spurs still made the playoffs and took the Denver Nuggets to 7 games without DeJounte Murray, who was supposed to have a breakout year back then? The year after Kawhi was traded, Derek White was our starting point guard because Murray had tore his ACL, and Derek White was our starting point guard when he had that infamous dunk against the Nuggets, and they took the Nuggets to 7 games. This was after Kawhi was traded. After Kawhi was traded. Nobody talks about this. These are facts. You can look them up. Look up the facts. The Spurs also made the playoffs the year Kawhi did not want to play for us and was sitting all those games out back in 2018 before we even got a replacement for Kawhi. Let me say this again, Spurs fans, because I know the real Spurs fans know everything I'm saying is true. The year Kawhi sat out and we didn't have a DeRozan on our roster, meaning that Kawhi was sitting out and we did not have a replacement for him, the Spurs still made the playoffs. 2017, 2018, that was the year Kawhi played 10 games or 19 games or something like that. The Spurs still made the playoffs without getting a replacement for Kawhi. Who are we holding back? Who are we holding back? Somebody got to clarify this statement because it don't make sense. I have to come on and speak these facts for YouTube because I see a lot of crap out there on the internet about the Spurs holding players back. We gotta start taking a stand, and I'm gonna use my platform to take a stand. That is, I disagree with that statement wholeheartedly. It doesn't make sense to me. Spurs fans, please, please, please comment below, because I know I'm not the only one that disagrees. I know I'm not the only one that disagrees. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. We out.